Have you ever eaten this kind of dish before? He looks a bit like a bok choy and a bit like lettuce. The leaves are bumpy and seem to have little flavor. It also seems to have a slightly sweet taste. I don't know if you call it mixed mushrooms and vegetables where you're from. Should it be called Swiss chard or thick-skinned vegetable? I only found out many years later. These nearly obsolete plants are all used in cooking. In fact, it is essentially a type of hygraphyte. Beets, to be precise, are nighttime beets. This is actually not a strange idea, because the ancestors of beets, coastal sugar beets, have absolutely no future. Thin roots, small leaves. They are distributed from the Middle East to the central China Sea. Coastal beets steamed in a pot of boiling water. It is a very common practice. Beetroot also contains betaine. It can increase serotonin levels to play a real role because it is rich in minerals. So what about beets? In some ancient Rome, in India and other places, it is considered an aphrodisiac. The thicker and wider the leaves, the more edible they are. Therefore, Swiss chard is also known as succulent beet. The mixed mushroom and vegetable dish gradually came into being. Theoretically speaking, beetroot should be like a cramped, boundless dwelling. Numerous variants have been developed. However, this species was cycled far too early by humans. His technological development, however, was put on pause. More than 1,000 years. It did not affect his form or practical value. What major changes will be made? Field vegetables were introduced to China very early. During the Northern and Southern Dynasties period in the 50s AD. It was already recorded. Back then, they were called heavenly vegetables. During the Qing dynasty, with the prosperity of crops such as bok choy, night-blooming celery is even used as animal feed. Until the 19th century, people discovered beets. Sometimes a mutation with a huge root will occur, because beets contain a lot of betalains. Therefore, when beets accumulate energy in their roots, this will result in excess forming layers. Its root cleansing. Red concentric circles will also appear. This type of field vegetable, with its large roots, was selected later. The root has become spherical, replaced with beetroot. It looks like a radish and tastes like a radish, although it has a slightly earthy smell like chicken. But its sweetness was a rare resource in ancient times. So beetroot is used in salads or pickles. It's quite popular, at least in Europe. Later, there was also a trial front end with a huge root number. Come to the health gate. 1747 Andreas Magrath extracted a crystal from beets. This substance, it's exactly the same as sugarcane extract. Only, at that time, the sugar content of sugar beets was only 13 to 16. His student Franz Karlachad tested 23 local beet varieties. Choose one to cultivate. After further in-depth modification and upgrading by later generations, it was born, using the white roots of white Silesian beets. Its sugar content reached 6. Despite the current breeding, beetroot has a sugar content of up to 18. So, here is the question. Mingming and undergraduate sugarcane. My body is full of sugar. Why do we still need to specifically cultivate them? The taste is not as good as sugarcane. Beetroot, which has more complex technology. This is because sugarcane can only grow in tropical and subtropical regions. He can't stand even a slightly lower temperature. Meanwhile, temperatures in Europe are relatively low. For a long time, only through tropical colonies. Get stacked money. Imported sugarcane. In tropical countries without colonies, it's easy to get bogged down in carbohydrates. In the era of Napoleon-style steamed eggs, France was blocked from importing sugar by Britain. Napoleon vigorously promoted the cultivation of sweet potatoes in France. Beetroot has only recently gained attention under the guise of practical use. When my country's first field vegetable manufacturing plant was established. That was in 1908. As for planting, the area will definitely be chosen to be planted in the north. Heilongjiang province, my country. Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang are both important sugar beet producing areas. As for the oldest and largest industry, I see fewer and fewer people growing it now. Although beets rely on their own production methods, it became a huge success in the county. But everyone here, I guess this is a real problem for the county town, still completely bewildered. After all, beets are not part of our daily lives. It's still a bit far, but the subtle clash. There is a hidden master that everyone is definitely familiar with. It has a domestication history of over 2,000 years, accompanying humanity through countless days and nights. It even has a well-known animation. He is spinach. Spinach is a very unusual vegetable. They are both male and female plants. If you see a spinach plant with a clucking flower, tada, then he's a bare spinach plant. If the flowers are like rough hands, that was a female spinach plant. Spinach was originally called Persian vegetable, Bolan vegetable. That's because it originated in Iran. That is, the former Persian Empire. Around 67 AD. Introduced to China from India and Nepal. It coincided with the golden age of the Tang dynasty. However, no Tang poems mention spinach. This is because at that time, spinach, it can only be considered a niche type of tree food. Only some herbalists, people who practice alchemy and take medicine, and farmers in poor condition would eat. I don't know what your preferences are, so I'm looking for fragrances and asking questions. Li Bai, who loved drinking. Have you ever tried this novel vegetable?
And today,
Spinach? It has been popularized worldwide. 9 of the floors are from China, although the eastward development started very early. However, Botany's westward journey was quite slow. By the time it spread to England and France, this happened more than 800 years later. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait, although it took longer. But spinach is very popular in both countries. Before he arrived, at the dinner table in spring, England and France, there wasn't a single green thing to be seen. What was the timing of his transmission? And it just so happened that the 100 Years' War between England and France was taking place. Not to mention the difficult period of major disasters. There weren't many things to eat to begin with. Spinach naturally followed suit. It became one of the most popular vegetables at the time. Spinach, according to leaf shape. It can be divided into pointed leaf type and original leaf type. You can also base your judgment on the morphology of the seed. Divided into thorny and thornless types, regardless of the type of spinach. Both are enzyme manganese, important source of folic acid and iron. So nutritious. No wonder people all over the world. It is believed to have a blood replenishing effect. Even French soldiers wounded during World War I, to prevent excessive blood loss. They also drink hot wine with spinach. 100 grams of spinach contains 99 milligrams of calcium. It contains only 23 calories. Roughly explained. Why did Popeye love spinach so much? But anything. Both have their duality. The reason why spinach is so nutritious. What is the cost? So, it turns out that the current version of spinach is actually a spinach. There is a lot of oxalic acid in my body. Besides that, it also contains large amounts of nitrates and nitrites. It's so lovable, yet so hateful. Through unremitting efforts, people discovered both oxalic acid and nitrite are readily soluble in water. Spinach only needs to be blanched in water before eating, or steam it. This allows for the preservation of nutrients while remove most of the harmful substances contained therein. So even if you really like spinach, remember to rinse it with water before eating. Besides having vegetables and sugar, the low-key county science department even has grain. It sounds outrageous, but it is actually very common. The fence in a supermarket is actually a product of the county science department. What about the grains domesticated in Asia? Most of them are from the river family. Every week, there is also corn from the river system. But corn prefers a warm and private environment. And the most civilized indigenous people every week, They live precisely in the high-altitude Andes Mountains. Pear and wheat. They originally used it to feed raw and cooked weeds, but it can be eaten as long as it contains grass seeds. Around 3,000 years ago, people in Peru and the glass oil region start using quinoa, even in water-scarce high-altitude areas. Quinoa can also grow normally. Look at this quinoa. It looks very much like a common wild vegetable found in the area. Lamb's quarters. Because lamb's quarters is also a modern scientific species. Freshly harvested quinoa seeds have a coating on the outside. It also contains dried soap. It tastes very bitter. It can prevent it from being swallowed by other animals. It needs to have its outer layer scraped off before it can be eaten. Compared to wheat and rice, quinoa has such a low energy density. However, nowadays people tend to have an excess of lactose. So what? Quinoa has also become a popular whole grain for weight loss. Blueberries are good at growing starchy lumps underground. Besides potatoes, there are also sweet potatoes. Besides sweet potatoes, there are also cassava. What are some plants that can be used as food? It's not just quinoa and quinoa. Pale pear. It and quinoa are essentially different species. However, they were not fully domesticated. The seeds still fall off easily. Besides having more protein, the nutritional components are similar to those of quinoa. This leads to a problem. That is, we cannot distinguish him from Lebanon. Even many foreign articles. We also cannot determine the matching diagram. Is it a solute or a pale solute? Later, after repeated comparisons of Spain and the video, only then did I realize. Actually, the pale pear is only 20-60 centimeters tall. If it's cultivated, you can tell at a glance. But if there are no reference points, the two are difficult to distinguish. Because even the pale pear, there are also more than 30 varieties. It is difficult to determine what his identifying feature is. We've already talked about modern science. How can we not talk about the current undergraduate line and its affiliation? The most prominent feature is, it has oval leaves. There are also flower buds and fruit buds that resemble rice. That is, ear of grain. Look at the grass seeds. You can eat it as long as it has grass seeds. Indeed, some of the extant species do exist. It can be grown as a grain. As for who grows them, that's easy to guess. Or Native Americans. After all, these are plants under the jurisdiction of the county. There are approximately 70 types. 90 of them originated from the Americas. Zili County, also known as Chien Sui Valley. The bright red Zi Sui looks great. In China, still regarded as an ornamental plant. The leaves can also be used as animal feed. The beef and horse that have eaten it all say it's delicious. Although it is also an American crop. However, its place of origin is Mexico. For the ancient people, there was no exception. He is the food, mainly known for its durability and sturdiness. It's truly the best Hanwang brand. It can also be in acidic conditions. It grows well in saliny-alkali soils. The problem is that the seeds are too small. 1,000 pills weigh only 1 gram. Processing mobile phones is quite troublesome. Stir fry in a hot wok until fragrant. Join the world's greatest emperor, Hajime, who loves to eat in the distance. Make it into Mexican food. And another one, Lia. It's definitely tastier than Sakama. That is, the same as Asia that does not include wheat and millet. South America? There is a type of small particle plant that can be used as food. That is Oho Prefecture, also known as Lao Chongu. As the name suggests, he was very burly, like a fox's tail. Besides that, there is also a type of anti-water line that has been domesticated, also known as old duck bone. His ears of grain are very hard. It's rising with a sizzling sound. Height can exceed 3 meters. It's considered sorghum in the county. For people in our country, most common counties, it must be this kind of leaf. The 3 color lines were randomly filled with red, also known as yanlehong. This red, actually with his relatives. The red color of beets comes from the same source. They all come from beet pigment, because it's so incredibly popular.
Now,
It is also frequently used as a natural food coloring. If you eat too much, it's possible that the urine will be red. Besides common stir-fries, the most essential way to cook fresh vegetables, I think we still need to look at Shaoxing, Ningbo, and other places. Use fresh vegetables for retirement. Cut off the thick clean. Add salt and seal to ferment into pickled mustard green stems. These are all pretty good poisons, you know? It smells much worse than fermented bean curd. It smells so bad, it's extremely smelly.
now it can be eaten.
It is also very entertaining. The leaves are naturally round. After cultivation, it can grow in 3 colors. It can even outline the gold edge. It's prettier than many plant flowers. Common clue plants. Overall, they have very little tolerance for the cold. It doesn't grow very long if the temperature is below 20 degrees Celsius. If it's below 10 degrees Celsius, the seed will not germinate. Besides eating pickled vegetables, what about the wild vegetables mentioned in other clues? Both can be described as invasive species suffering from stench. As soon as it gets hot, you will be able to. They can be seen in all sorts of places. Common examples include reverse straight lines, green water lines, sudden fruit line. You must have noticed the concave head line at some point, passing by them. This front line has strong communication capabilities. Not only can they be found in fields and villages, sometimes they can even grow up to the roof. Fish roe fairy is too common. I never thought they were an invasive species. But despite the certainty, in comparison,
Coxcomb.
this variety is both highly ornamental and practical. Coxcomb is a modern plant. It sounds incredible, but if you look closely at its leaves, isn't this just a leaf from a plant? So, what's the deal with this flower? Let's look at the flowers of modern times. It is made up of a spike, not petals. I'm sure everyone can guess it. This is actually made up of countless tiny flowers. At the plant market, a type of abnormal transverse proliferation of tissue will occur. The phenomenon of flattening and distortion is called the drunken flower phenomenon. Coxcomb flower is actually a plant called fragrant, the delicate fragrance that lingers after the flowers have been intoxicated. It is also an ornamental plant. As for its tender leaves, it was just as edible as it is now. Actually, once you get here, Xianka has established itself in various applications. She's an all-rounder. However, as a new version, it is prohibited. Humanity has discovered that the original sciences should be incorporated into constitutional science. Become Ryako. Ryakos are generally drought-resistant. Many are desert plants. This perfectly makes up for the shortcomings of the current technology. For example, this one looks like a green belt. The guy who hung up the plant, called Steve. After it dries, you can roll around on the ground. It is one of the many tumbleweeds in Eurasia. What is the use of Steve? If you see small whistles made of plants, the top has red dots. That was made with the sorghum flower pavilion. The really big one is made of bamboo, just like the ones used in undergraduate programs. In the field of sentinel chefs, even the engraved lines need to be inserted into a corner. Tiff, also known as seedlings. This kind of whistle is neither too big nor too small, and it's a bit stiff. It's made from seedlings. In North China, sweeping seedlings has other uses as well. That means it can eat, but not just eat dry. Instead, his inner lobe was collected. They also wrap it in flour and steam it. Compared to regionally differentiated seedlings, the plant below is probably very familiar to everyone. He is the person everyone picked up from a certain payment software. One after another, the Saxol trees. This describes the most famous desert plants of the Ryako family. Haloxylon amidendron. There are 2 common types in the country. One type is Saxol. One type is white tamarisk. White tamarisk is extremely drought-resistant, able to use 1,000 sands. Only 5 grains of water survived on the land. They can live on semi-mobile or mobile sand slopes. And shrink. It can survive in soil containing 1 kilogram of soil to 23 g of water, although drought resistance is poor. However, it can survive in salini-alkali soil with a pH value greater than 9 tons. In many dry nuclei. What about the edge of the arc bed or something similar in substance? All are distributed. It is actually more common than white tamarisk. On the Haloxylon Amadendron mountain, it contains the power of 3 elements. One is the fire element. Squirrels are rich in oil. It burns for a long time and is durable. Therefore, it is also called sand coal. It is a reliable fuel source during times of energy scarcity. It is also very heat resistant, with temperatures reaching 43 degrees Celsius. When the surface temperature reaches 60 or 70 degrees Celsius, still able to survive. This was thanks to the power of the water element within him. On the one hand, it's because his leaves have degenerated, knotted and small, like scales. Instead, use hair balm rich in chlorophyll. Photosynthesis. Greatly reduce moisture from sun exposure. On the other hand, it's because of his tree bark, capable of storing large amounts of water, ensuring their own survival needs. And wood element. It came from the spirit pet he raised. That is, meat at ease. It is actually a parasitic plant belonging to the Amaranthaceae family. It does not produce phytic acid. All thanks to the shrinking white tether shuttle. Plants such as those that propel water-absorbed nutrients through their roots. It can grow up to 16 meters long. The part that was exposed above ground when it was alive looks like sanguiplus. The flowers bloom like lupins growing heads. It also looks a bit like Dior. It is believed to be able to treat kidney deficiency. Therefore, it is extremely shameless of him to be eating and drinking like this. But this thing is good because of its medicinal value. It has been eaten into a protected plant abroad. Let him go. Seeds conceived from the convergence of 3 elements at the top of the flower. It is not a house. The flower itself is small and inconspicuous, but the fruits of the mouse are quite exquisite, known as the plum blossom in the desert, the fruit that nursed Huangsha Gidge, protected by 5 beautiful magical petals. Let it, able to fly to every corner of the desert with the wind, rooting and sprouting. The wings grant the shrink fruit exceptional mobility, but at the same time it is also a kind of power seal. If it is fruit that ripens in late autumn, wings will inhibit seed germination, preventing signal from landing. Then encountered the winter hard mode. If you remove the wings and place it in a safe and stable location, white Haloxylon Amadendron seed germination rate from no trend to 16, increased to 64. Water is extremely precious in the desert. Seize the opportunity. It has one of the fastest germination rates in the world. As long as there is a very small amount of water, it can take root and sprout within 2 or 3 hours. It seems it's about encouraging these seeds to take a gamble. Your family has already given you the most powerful bloodline. As for the future, it all depends on one's own destiny. As long as an opportunity arises, then they can grow up at the fastest speed, become a great Saxol tree. But if luck is bad, then let him rest in peace amidst this rolling yellow sand. Compared to previous plants, modern plants in our consciousness, its presence is slightly weaker. But there are 5 kinds of grains at once. Add sugar, ornamental and other functions. Instead, it made the county science department. It has a range of applications comparable to Checo.
It can be said,
County science is the gatekeeper of our common edible vegetables. After finishing the county science, this doesn't mean well run out of material later, because there is still industry. Ornamental fruits, plants from all fields await us. Coin toss, like, and share 3 in 1. Let's continue with something new.